Welcome to another edition of Hard in the Paint, where no subject is out of bounds. No subject is out of bounds. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody who's shown me some support by liking my page at Facebook. You can also hit me up on my YouTube channel. Yes, I do have a YouTube channel. Theo Butler, Hard in the Paint, HARDNTHAPAINT. That being said, what brings me to you today? Well, I didn't want to devote a whole segment to this, but based on some things that I've been reading on social media recently, as well as a conversation that I had with the pastor on Sunday, I felt like it was time for me to give this topic its due. And when I say it's due, the topic that I'm speaking of specifically is this. It seems to be that everybody, well, not everybody, some people have a problem, a huge problem with this. People in the media, such as Bill O'Reilly and Elizabeth Hasselbeck, just to name a few. Elizabeth Hasselbeck says this should be considered a hate group. People that rally behind this should be considered a hate group. While Bill O'Reilly says he's not going to be happy until he stomps out this movement. Here's what I want to say to them and those that think like them. This right here, maybe you would feel better if instead of it saying this, Black Lives Matter, it said Black Lives Matter as well. Maybe you would be happy with that one. Or if that one doesn't float your boat, maybe you would be happy if it said Black Lives Matter also. Or maybe you would be happy with it saying Black Lives Matter too. Because clearly what you're getting from Black Lives Matter is only Black Lives Matter, and this is not what the Black Lives Matter movement is saying. It's not saying this. By saying this, it's also saying this. It's also saying this, as well as saying this. Now that I've used my cue cards to give you a nice visual perspective, the reason why African Americans feel it's pertinent to say Black Lives Matter. Well, we had Cecil the Lion, and I felt some type of way about Cecil being killed because Cecil was just minding his own business. I supported that, and I'm an African American. We had animal rights activists who were upset about Michael Vick killing and torturing animals. I was bothered by that, and I'm an African American. See, I'm upset about Cecil being killed, and I'm upset about the dogs being killed, tortured, fighting, and everything like that. I'm upset about that. I'm an African American, and if I should be interested in anything, it should only be, and I'm being so sarcastic when I say this, it should only be anything that furthers the cause of African Americans, right? That's how that should be. That's dumb, because I'm a human first, one of God's creatures first, so I should care about everything. So being an African American, not only do I care about Cecil the Lion being killed by a jerk, I also care about the animals that Michael Vick tortured. Now, what draws me to be able to point these things? I had a pastor tell me, because like I said, I do care about those instances. I also care about the police officers that have been killed recently. We're going to get into that. But I had a young man, well, I had a gentleman on Facebook tell me, argue vehemently that Theo, all lives matter. Nobody ever get an argument from me on that one. But what I can't get to seem to get across to them, why do you remain silent when Black lives are taken? Why is it now when somebody says Black Lives Matter, because you look at the news clearly like I look at the news, whether you looking at CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, you're looking at some news channel. Why is it you feel taken aback when people say Black Lives Matter after Black lives have been taken? I had a pastor tell me, he's practicing flag football, tell me that he was sick of police officers being killed by blacks. That just wasn't the way to go. And I concurred. I agree with him. But then I asked him, I said, well, how do you feel about police officers killing black? Man, I ain't got nothing to do with that. He said, I don't have anything to do with that. He said, I can only control what I control. Well, if you're a man of God, your influence should be outside of your community because you're a man of God. You don't just minister to those in your congregation because you represent God, and God is all seeing and God is all knowing. So your influence should be on the law enforcement officers, and you should be concerned about what they're doing to negatively affect your community. I couldn't believe this guy said this. While I acknowledged more than one time that he was right, that no, police officers should not be targeted. Police officers should not be assassinated. I could not get, and he was a brother, by the way. Let me just go ahead and say that. He's a brother. I could not get this guy to understand, to address the fact that we have had African Americans, unarmed African Americans, being killed by police. Law enforcement officials, since we landed on Plymouth Rock. I could not get this guy to come to that. He just said we need to stop it, which is part of the problem. You don't put a band-aid on the problem. You treat the wound. You don't just put a band-aid on and hope it just go away. No, you need to stitch it up if you have to. Put some hydrogen peroxide in there if you need to. Pour some alcohol on it if you need to. You need to address the wound itself, because a bandage does nothing. So, one of the things that bothered me, like I said, besides those events, was another guy that said to me, he doesn't believe that police officers leave the house intending to kill African Americans. That's an absolute statement. And we have to be careful when making absolute statements, because we know 2 + 2 = 4. That's absolute. 1 + 1 = 2. That's absolute. When it comes to life, it is absolute that you are going to be born and that you are going to die. I wish I could tell you that police officers, some, don't leave the house with the intent to, if not harm African Americans, to harass African Americans. But see, if I made that statement, that would be no less true than me saying African Americans leave the house with no intent whatsoever to harm anyone. African Americans just don't do that. Jewish Americans don't do that. Hey, that's a faulty statement, because there are some people that unfortunately do think that way, and some of those people do carry a badge. I've said it once before, and I cannot stress it enough, and I hope y'all with me on this one. The police force is a microcosm of the world that we live in, and just like you have bullies in the world, just like you have gays and lesbians in the world, you have police officers that are exactly that. And they do a good job of hiding it. But it does not mean that they don't possess that spirit inside of them. So when you make statements like, police officers wouldn't leave their home with the intent to kill African Americans, I'm going to say to you, yeah, some of them do. Just like some people wake up in the morning saying to themselves, I'm going to rob somebody today. Yeah, that happens. Just like some people wake up, and this is so silly, I'm going to go to work today. Or how about this one? They wake up in the morning, I'm not going to work today. It's a microcosm, people. We need to wake up and stop making absolute statements when the only thing that's absolute is life and death. Let's take a look at some of the names. And this is for anybody that has internet service. You can actually do the research yourself. Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, Ramarley Graham, Freddie Gray, Walter Scott, Freddie Gray. By the way, the city, Baltimore, Maryland, settled with his family. You might want to look that up. Why would they settle if Freddie Gray was guilty of that? Why would they settle with Freddie Gray if he was guilty? Why would they settle with his family if he was guilty and the police were in? Because the police weren't guilty. How about that one? Anyway, as I was saying, Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, Ramarley Graham, Freddie Gray, Walter Scott, Sandra Bland, David Lee Turner, Eric Scott, Ernesto Nunez, Bobby Bennett, Timothy Russell, Melissa Williams, Seth Adams, and Natasha McKinnon. These are all African Americans, unarmed African Americans that have been killed while either in police custody or killed by police officers. You want to tell me every last one of them had it coming? You want to tell me that every last one of them did what they were supposed to do, they would still be alive? Once again, that's an absolute statement. I'm not gonna go for that one. But see, if I care about Cecil the Lion and I care about the dogs that were killed by Michael Vick, I care about these other people too. And I'm African American. But let me tell you who I also care about. I also care about Carson Holmquist, David Wyatt, Skip Wells, and Thomas J. Sullivan. They were Marines. Care about them too. I'll tell you who else I care about. I care about Officer Joe Glenowitz, Deputy Darren Goforth, Officers Wing-Zhang Liu and Raphael Ramos, Henry Nelson, and Senior Trooper Stephen Vincent. I care about all of those people who have tragically lost their lives because people have been idiots. But what I won't do is I won't stand here using this platform to say that, you know what, if they came out today or tomorrow and said that law enforcement officer lives matter, I'd be the first one to say, you know what, you're absolutely right. I will stand in line and say, you're absolutely right. Law enforcement lives do matter. They should not be maliciously targeted and killed, because that's just wrong. You see, I'm not just going to stand in this line. I'm also going to stand in the line that says Black Lives Matter, because Black lives do matter. And people need to understand, you need to understand that the only reason why people are saying that Black Lives Matter is because they're feeling like Black lives don't matter. And when you come out and you make statements that say all lives matter, where were you? Where was your voice when unarmed African Americans were being killed? Were you at home hiding behind, I don't know all the facts? Were you at home saying the police did it, so surely they had it coming? Were you at home hiding behind statements such as, well, if they just would have did what the police officers asked them, they would still be alive? If that is the case, there are several ancestors of mine and yours that would have died of old age. I can remember I don't want to say that I can remember, but we all know the story of the Freedom Riders who came from up north to ensure that African Americans had the right to vote in the South in the 60s. Those were 2 Caucasian men and 1 African American. Surely had they done what they were supposed to do, they would have never been killed by law enforcement. What law were they breaking? What law were they breaking? So when you see this from here on out, you need to understand what this truly says. And if you can't get on board with it, my suggestion to you is to just keep your mouth closed. Because to be perfectly honest, when you come out of your mouth and as a rebuttal to this, you say all lives matter, I don't care if you're a friend or not, you're truly showing your ignorance. Because African Americans, blacks, understand that all lives matter. What we are saying is that our lives what we are saying is if you are taking anything else away from the Black Lives Matter movement, I dare say you probably just need to. If you're not going to be a part of the solution, don't be a part of the problem. That's my time. I'm out. I hope you share this. I hope it goes viral. I hope we can spread awareness through education. I hope that we can sit down with those who have a problem with the Black Lives Matter movement and have an articulate, intelligent, well-versed conversation to show them exactly how foolish they sound. I hope that we can use the resources available to us to show them history has shown us that when it comes to law enforcement, black lives black lives don't necessarily matter. I hope that we can sit there with the compassion and show them that, you know what, not only are we concerned about black lives because we're black, but we're concerned about all lives in general. We want them to stand up and do the same. If you're not going to be heard when Black Lives Matter, we don't want to hear from you when we say Black Lives Matter. We just don't want to hear from you. Don't make your comments known. And to Bill O'Reilly and Elizabeth Hasselbeck, I'm going to call you two out. And I'm going to say this, that in this land, this day and age, where we all have access to information, YouTube as well as Fox News are either one or two things. You either in it for the money, just to spread the hate mongering propaganda that you can, because actually in all actuality, I don't want to believe, so I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt, I don't want to believe y'all are that damn dumb. And yes, I said it, that damn dumb. So I want to believe you know better, and I want to believe you're just in it to make money. All money is not good money, but if that's what it is, then that will explain it, because I want to believe that y'all know better. But if you don't know any better, that means that you have truly lived an exclusive life, not an inclusive life, but an exclusive life, and you have not paid attention to your schooling, whether it was in high school, elementary school, or in college, and you have thrown away all of the information that sits here, because what you're saying is, based on your argument, that every African American that has died in police custody had it coming. Once again, that's an absolute, and we know there are only two: life and death. Once again, thank you for being with me. Thank you for visiting me. Check me out on my Facebook page. Check me out on my YouTube page. Subscribe to it. Like it. This is Theo Butler again. I love y'all. We are one race, the human race. I believe that wholeheartedly. But when your brothers and sisters are being targeted, regardless of what womb you came out of, regardless of the melanin in your skin, we all must stand up and come together and say that this is not right. This is wrong. And as a united people, one day we will abolish racism. That's my time. I'm out. Peace.